St. Paul, in the reading from the Acts, has this ploy. He sees that he can create division in this well-divided body of the Sanhedrin. The Sadducees only have the Pentateuch, and therefore do not have the developed vision of the beyond which the Pharisees have, and therefore he knows that he will have at least some of the Pharisees on side if he goes into the element of the soul and its afterlife. For the Sadducees were very limited in their vision of the beyond. And he succeeded. The Pharisees, some of them anyway, the scribes in question, defend him. And this wedge is enough. The union of Christians must not be made of divisions. Indeed, the high priestly prayer of the Lord is entirely centered on the equivalent of the life of the Trinity reproduced here on earth. Union, love, and a consequent joy must be that which flows from union with the Blessed Trinity, which is ecstasy itself. In our own times we have something which has come from this spirituality directly, that of the Focolare movement. Chiara Lubich and those girls who were with her during the war in Turin were given this great intuition of the centrality of union. And from it, from this intuition divinely given, came this hearth, the Focolare. And what is more at home in a hearth than love and warmth, and therefore unity? A simple spirituality. Also important to them was Jesus abandoned, Jesus forsaken, Gesù abbandonato. So Jesus in the midst, creating unity and bonding them in love, and Jesus abandoned in the most poor soul, the most suffering, forgotten soul. That soul might come to us out of the blue. I'll come to that in a second. With regard to union and unity, it is something to be borne in mind, for pious souls can be divisive, always for the glory of God, of course, but it is not glorious the way that the end product is factions, tendencies, criticisms, internal strife, domestic warfare, or within the Christian family. One day, not that long ago, the Holy Father was encountering Lutherans in the context of the year of Luther, and this question was coming from one of their younger members, a Lutheran, with regard to the preferences that heaven might have, with regard to Lutherans versus Catholics. And the Holy Father had this interesting counter reply, which went more or less in this direction. Do you prefer, leaving therefore the ball in their court, a tepid Lutheran or a fervent Lutheran, a tepid Catholic or a fervent Catholic? And therefore he transposed it into another key. The soul, in fact, can be bonded mystically to a soul not dogmatically united. Why? There is love in the midst, love of the same Jesus. And whereas somebody of the same dogmatic faith might be light years away with regard to love of Jesus, e.g. in continuous, consented, repeated, grave sin, never handled, a person bonded with Jesus in a different dogmatic setting nevertheless is close to that same Jesus, and we cannot but, as it were, collide in Jesus. We meet all these in prayer. Why? We're looking at the same eyes together. And this perhaps is the key to true ecumenism, seeing what is actually there. The Holy Father did actually point out that baptism was there, and therefore Christ is in the midst. But within our own family we need to be careful, for we can have a tendency to exaggerate, or we can have a tendency to give the benefit of the doubt. The tendency then can lead to extremes if it's repeated and exaggerated. Let us go through life with that heart of Jesus, which loves and does not have a raucous language. And that then is the atmosphere that we have in all our encounters, including that with Jesus forsaken, in the person coming to us forsaken. I was thinking recently about the way that many souls are completely forsaken, used, abused. Girls in particular can be used and abused without actually realizing it. I was just reflecting recently on a case that I know of a young girl who was in that way used and abused by someone of a different faith or none. When that person of a different faith or none discovered that she was pregnant, he just swore at her and went back to his country, which was, as it happens, an Islamic country. But that girl had the courage to bring the child to full term. And I'm asking myself, had there been abortion available in this land, would that have been the case? I think it probably would have been, because she was at heart a girl who knew what was what with regard to life. But how many others would have opted out for concealment and just washing their hands of another problem, a nuisance child? As it happens, the authorities handled the situation and judged that for the time being anyway she couldn't manage to bring the child up. So it was put in foster care, and she's allowed to see him each week for an hour, albeit with the foster parents present and obviously not too happy, probably because they're aware that she might have rights over it later on. But nevertheless, I notice in this case, as in others, how when for once they find that they are not judged or cast aside, but met where they're at and appreciated in their own unicity and mystery, then strangely something deep down is touched and warmed, and in their own way they opened up. And so I wrote this, which I can perhaps quote, it won't do any harm, because it says more than prose sometimes, a word of verse. O little child, much used, abused by men, and mother of a child that shall not be thine own to hold or fondle, save but then when other eyes hard scowl, and hurriedly withdraw thy treasure hence, whence yet again to long and lengthy waiting thou dost go into a corner of a hovelled pain, that none on earth shall see or ever know. Shall I walk on and leave thee all alone, where parents too walked on? Shall I thee call a problem that once came, that none did own, but only used? Or shall I be the all to which thou'dst cling? Alone, alone wouldst cling, for that for one thou didst mean everything.